So, we are back on our series, Discipleship Habits, and where we discuss and talk and really get to know what God has in store. And this morning, I'm very honored to have Gary and have Tom Smith as part of my panel today. They're going to, by way of reminder, bring us back to the things that we talked about, the things that we learned the last time we're together.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you again, Pastor, for having me back. And I'm Gary Turnage, and it's quite a journey. The whole series is a journey, but since I've joined the church or the fellowship of the family, even that's become a journey. But it's wonderful, and it's definitely worth it.
Amen. Thank you. That was wonderful. Brother Tom.
Good morning, everybody. Hi, Gary. Good to see you.
Good morning, you too, sir.
Good to see you, Pastor. God bless. Thank you for everything. Over the last few years, we've faced a lot of trials. And I say together, even though so often we've been virtually connected and sometimes even missing that virtual connection. But because of our connect groups, because of our getting it together on YouTube, and now having the opportunity once a month to see each other in the flesh, to worship. And even though I haven't been there recently, I've been able to tune in to the musical worship and see some of the faces. And I'm excited to be here today. So God bless you all.
Amen. Amen. So, discipleship habits, part three, as we've been talking about becoming like Jesus, because that's what transformation is all about, or discipleship is all about. Mere Christianity is marked with mediocrity, but true discipleship is marked with transformation, ever changing, becoming like Jesus. Like you gentlemen said, it is a journey. It is not a destination. It is a journey. Hopefully today you guys can help us talk on one of the subjects we talked about on Sunday part three, which is one of the practice that helps us and plays a key role in our transformation process of mirroring Jesus, imaging Jesus, becoming like Jesus when we step out in the world. So, all right, I'm gonna have Gary. I'm gonna turn it over to you. If you wanna get us going this morning, Gary, good to have you. It's yours.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. And just as a refresher, as I look back on the video on that date, that was the Christmas message. And so that one kind of really comes to life for a lot of everybody. It shouldn't be hard to kind of reflect back because the biggest picture right off the bat is, of course, everybody knows the birth of Jesus in a manger. But when Jesse started off the service, he was also mentioning that when Jesus came to earth from the Spirit and manifest as a man, he was still with God, and God is still with him, and you can't separate the two. And so, that being said, even though God was here as a man on earth physically, he was still representing God. And that was his first example right off the bat, because Jesus said many times, I'm about my Father's business.
Yeah.
And so he was always listening for his Father's word, obeying his Father's command. That was a primary example of discipleship. And so we now, as humans, have to do number one, establish our relationship with our Heavenly Father, begin to listen to his words, and begin to discipleship as he did. And then secondly, disciples are always listening to the word of Jesus, feeding on the word of Jesus. And so that's what we have to do now. We have to read the word of Jesus. We have to feed on the word of Jesus. And this is where the biggest, to me, the biggest two examples, two biggest takeaways that I come across initially. And so then we are often given help. The innkeeper, he saw a quick snapshot. These two, the pregnant women and family needing a place to stay, but they didn't have a place to stay. All he saw was a snapshot. But may I remind you all that there was such a big picture in the background that the innkeeper had no idea. In fact, if you think that them having to go back to Bethlehem to register was a coincidence, or the fact that You got to go back and also remember that Mary had a virgin birth or a virgin conception. So these were all big pictures in the past, and that the innkeeper had no idea that was going on. So when I look at the things that we do, we all have an opportunity to help. And sometimes, we also have to have the ability to discern when not to, who to help and who not to help. But a lot of times we have to continue to look at our lives as a snapshot. And always, as things are going on in life, we do not know the big picture. So this is in some of the things, and I'll get to it later as to what happened to me as I continue to try to dig in as being a disciple. And so these are some of the things that I took away from the presentation on Christmas, the one that you had given. So let me go ahead and turn the page here. Okay, so the other two biggest things that also come out of there was, one, that Jesus was born in a manger, which means that he had to come down in man form, which is one. He couldn't come down in the spirit if we wanted to get what he needed. And secondly, he was born of the most humblest surroundings. Like most of us now, we're born in a hospital at least, or at home with a midwife. He was in the manger, or so they say, in the manger, surrounded by animals to that degree. So that gives him an idea, gives us all an idea of his humble beginnings. And again, I'll get to it later, but why would we not have room for him in our life? Right. Just to say have. And also you mentioned in your series on that presentation that day was that also, again, these are all big examples from way back that still live today. Even Christ going forward, the idea that humanity does not make room for him, does not create room for him overall in this world. I mean, you mentioned that he was on the periphery, but this world is so crazy now, and the spirits that dwell are so crazy. He's not even secondary, barely even tertiary. And so we as Christians, as a fellowship, have to continue to stick together, grow together, so that we can keep him as a forefront as we begin to continue to be disciples and cultivate our relationships. And so let me keep reading my notes here. And from my experience, and this is kind of all going to come together here, just work with me here. A lot of rich kids, as you know, they kind of go to the wayside. And then as you see, even the homeless people, or not necessarily homeless people, the people who wait at home for free money, they don't appreciate the value of hard work. They don't appreciate the value of working to attain something greater than what little pittance that they're receiving. And so to me, this is what it's about when you work to become one of God's children. And this is all going to come together. It's just that it's such hard work. And anything that we know today, it's going to be hard if you expect to get the rewards. So in my mind, I kind of frame it as, at first I started off with a garage filled with lifetime of stuff. But I've kind of expanded that to maybe like an airplane hangar or a large warehouse, only because once you get into trying to clean this stuff out, it's going to take you a while. And so me, I'm just introducing myself and to my walk, and I'm just taking out one box at a time, right? And we're looking for a reward at the end, right? Who knows? But nonetheless, my walk with Christ is in that same manner. I've got a lifetime of stuff stored in here, and it all has to come out. And it's not going to happen overnight, and it's definitely not free. It's going to take work. Work meaning reading the Bible, studying the Bible, listening to this. Not only what you take in, what am I getting away from? My old partners, my old clubbing, my old habits, right? The old way I used to speak. So all this is kind of like work. It's hard work. Oh, man, it's hard work. You just don't know. And what I mean by that is this. As you're beginning to take these boxes out one at a time, right? Something might happen. You lift a heavy box, bang. You've now twisted your back. Guess what? You're out of the game for 2 weeks. Now the devil's got you at a disadvantage. You're sitting at home, you eat more than you have to, you're feeling bad about yourself, you're watching Oprah Winfrey and all these other crazy programs, you got stuff coming in through your eyes, you got stuff coming in through your ears, and your attitude is changing, and I'm getting away from the Bible. And you see you're at a disadvantage. This is how life is with us. And I'm going to say for myself, I have been reading the Word. When I work out now, I've switched from music. I'm listening to Bible studies on the radio, right? I'm just going through Acts right now. I listen to it on YouTube, I'm sorry. I've got a couple books that I'm reading. The pastor recommended one for me, so I'm trying to read that at work when I come home. And don't you know, the harder you dig in, the harder you work for Christ, Satan's working twice as hard. And I can tell you that right now. And I have just been under so much attack for the last 2 weeks. I fell out. I'm going to have to be honest with you. My reading has gone to the side. And I've been under so much stress. I'm not even working out like I'm supposed to. So guess what? I'm not getting this right now. And I have to thank you, Pastor, and the church right now for giving me the opportunity to kind of use today as a regrouping, because I'm finally able to get these things under balance. But then here's what it is. We go back to the very beginning and what the message says. Didn't say I failed to make room, but I was unable to make room because of life circumstances. And I have to keep going back into that warehouse, and I have to get back in there. I have to start pulling stuff out. I have to make an effort no matter what happens. And there's a disproportionate balance there, right? Because the more you're under attack and the more you get away, the more you're supposed to dig in.
Right.
But we as weak humans, fleshly humans, it's hard. You know, I got to go lick my wounds, and I'm hurt right now. I'm exhausted, and I'm tired, and there's just so much coming right now. But here's the biggest key to all that. I wouldn't be under this attack. I wouldn't be under this stress. I wouldn't be under these problems if I wasn't working for the glory of God. And that's where this has to go, right? I've told this pastor one time too. If you're doing your walk with God and you're not running into the devil, you better turn around, because you're walking in the wrong direction. And I feel that that's what's happening right now. I'm getting, I'm getting attacks. I'm being pulled away from this nice lifestyle changes that I've made, only because Satan knows that I'm progressing. So that's what I'm trying to relate current lifestyle situations with a lot of what I'm getting from the church and from the other readings that I'm doing. And I think I can kind of bring this circle back home a little bit. Anything worth having requires a lot of work. You got to work to maintain a relationship. And so, yeah, our time in 2022 is a whole lot different from Jesus' time discipleship, right? They dropped their nets and then they actually physically walk with Jesus. That's a 24/7 lifestyle of discipleship, right? I mean, everything they did, they would go from home to home and they would be fed. And then they would go and they would have group meetings and people would bring food. They would be fed. They would be housed. Realistically, that's not 2022. But I believe we do have TV. The past, I'm going to go over a little bit what you said before. These disciples would walk on foot miles and miles and miles to get to where they had to. And this would take hours and days versus we have a car. We can take a 3-day trip and do it in 2 hours.
Right.
On foot versus a car, right? And so we have TV in front of us. We have interferences with us. And so it's not that we can't make room for Jesus. It's just that we have to kind of prioritize our priorities. And so it's not about just kind of squeezing him in, actually, right? It's go back to the discipleship. It's a lifestyle change. You can't do it 24/7. We know this because you got to eat and feed your families. But we have to kind of make it a priority. I've learned to, and this is what I do, not consistent, of course. But the first thing I do in the morning now is I pray before I start my day. That's a lifestyle change. When I get off work after 12 hours, I like to try to come home and read. But one of the key things is that you have to have quality time without the phone. That's automatic given. No TV, that's a given. We have to get to a place of quiet, solace, because it's not just what you pray. It's how you pray. When you go for a job interview and you send that letter back to that person, thank you for the interview, and your resume, it's not on regular paper. It's on texture paper, and it matches the envelope. So the message that you're sending to these folks is kind of high status. And by all means, this is how I try to approach prayer. I'm not trying to do a quick drive-by. I'm not thinking about a prayer because that's a thought. So I'm trying to get away. I'm trying to get on my knees. I'm trying to make it a holy reception so that when I do pray, even if it's 2 minutes, this is what I need to do, because I'm getting away from what's happening in life because I'm under the power of stress and Satan and all these attacks. It's not a real excuse. I'm still young too. I'm a child with this walk. I'm trying to learn to fight back. I'm trying to learn, not necessarily because these fights aren't mine, but how do I stand? How do I fight through these things? These things come. They come by the way of expenses. Roof repairs are expensive. Car breaks down. These are stresses. You got angry people at work hollering at you for no reason. I tried to get a business call on the phone, and the people on the phone just act like you're less than human. Okay, now these are the only reason you get these stresses is because you're a Christian. We have to have a walk that reminds us moment after moment that we are God's children, and it's a lifetime growth. So even though I'm digging into this warehouse and I'm pulling out boxes, sometimes I strain my back and I got to sit out 2 days. Sometimes I got hit on the head with a box and box knocks me over. These are things that are going to happen as you begin to clean up these here issues that you have inside. These things going to hurt. It's going to hurt. And the more you work at these things, the more you attain in that goal, the more hurt you're going to get. You don't believe me? You ask Jesus. Jesus had to carry that cross. Jesus had his beard pulled. He got stuck with a sword in his side. He got nailed to the cross. You don't think that hurts? We have nothing to worry about. Cry about. These things, they knock me out of balance, but they don't really hurt when you look at the people in Ukraine. These are small issues when you look at the whole picture. As I mentioned before, what we're seeing and what I'm saying to you right now is a snapshot. Look at the whole picture. Back up a little bit. I'm trying to do that, but I'm still trying to say, hey, God, I'm weak. What do? I don't know what to do. I don't have the answers, but I got to keep going to him. I fall down. I got to keep going to him. I get tired. I got to keep going to him. I get weak. I get tired. I want to stop. And I do stop, but I got to keep going. And so I got to make room. I think that was the theme of your thing most of all is we have to make room. And last but not least, this world is so crazy. The less room we make, the more we're going to get caught up in this mess. It's an effort now. It's a fight. It's a fight right now. It's a fight every day, every moment, every day. Even my family, my daughter, I have to watch her life now. My wife, I got to keep an eye out for her too, right? Because I'm the Godhead here. So it's not just about me anymore. I have to continue to work and strive and read and work. And when you think about and I'm going to let this go shortly, but if you look at the other disciples, they were jailed for no reason. They were beat with rods for no reason, right? And they were sat down on their behinds, but their feet were locked in stocks so that they couldn't get up and go. The only thing that got them out of there, they were praying and praising God, and the building shook, and the locks came out, and they were able to just walk out of there because they prayed and they had that power in that relationship. That's the power I want. I'm just a child. I'm not even close, but those are my goals. And I believe I'm still trying to make room. So this, make room for Jesus and the Christmas message and how we're supposed to continue to work based on the examples that were set in human time when Jesus was on earth. That's what I got from the message. I don't have a lot of associated Bible verses or things of that nature, but these, since it's a personal reflection, these are the pearls that I was able to gain from such a message, and that was powerful, and it still is today. That's what I have for you.
Gary, thank you.
Amen, Gary. I'd just like to echo what you said, Gary. Speaking of echoing, Pastor.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was the Christmas message. That's why it sticks out. That was a really good time of year, right? And so
it's interesting how Pastor said, you all not ready for this Christmas message, are you? Halfway through, and they were like, yeah, you're right.
Yep. You got to make lifestyle changes. It hurts.
So you look a lot younger than me, Gary, but I'm getting a sense in talking with you about this familial relationship. You've got kids.
Yep.
You have grandkids.
Yep.
Spending some time with 2 baby grandkids lately, and then in reviewing this message, that sense of the father-son relationship that Jesus represents. And Jesse started off with the talk beforehand, and he had actually a nice capper too, that just really lined in with what Pastor is talking about. And I see some familiar lips whispering into Papa's ear, that precious relationship between father and son, or daughter and father, daughter and mother. And how often have we heard, oh, I see the family resemblance. I see you're looking a lot like your dad. I used to get that all the time. And I had a brother, and I was really sensitive, like, are you sure? Looks more like my brother,
Right.
8:20 a.m. KGNW, which is a great radio station for the word and different views of it and so forth. It's a local radio station I still listen to from time to time. I don't know. I may be one of the last ones with a radio in this car, but they talk about, hey, have you been hearing that you look a lot like your father lately? That may be a compliment, and I think it's about that special father and son relationship. Jesus came here as God incarnate.
Mm-hmm.
So he experienced what we were experiencing, but he and the Father were one. And there's just no other way. You can't have one without the other.
Absolutely.
And the more time we spend inviting him with his word, praying, fellowship with others in our connect groups or our Bible study meetings, all these things that we do to immerse and to learn how to do what Jesus said is, if you love me, then follow my commandments. If you love me, try to be like him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the more we spend time with him, have you found also that, yes, you can see there's a lot rising up to make you resist, but also the more you're with him, the more I'm with him, I'll speak my own experiences, life is better. And I kind of look back, well, what was I resisting? And then in that same look back, I know it's a different environment over 2,000 years ago, 21 centuries ago, but the word was traveling and Jesus had thousands of people who wanted to come and hear him. And he had to pick a place to sit because that's the way they talked. I understand that way, so that everybody could hear him, and he had disciples well, he still took time to go away. And Pastor talked about this, and if people want to look it up, it's the December 19th episode that you can get on YouTube still and review. And he would go off and spend that valued alone time. Now, he'd have to worry about cell phones, but he had to worry about not having all these people because he needed to have that consecrated time, as you talked about, finding that way where we are submitting ourselves to him and not just talking. He loves to hear. It's like, okay to say, Lord, I'm in pain. I really care about this. We're talking with him. That's a privilege of the New Testament. What's the word? The promise that we're given is that personal relationship. Isn't that the meaning, Pastor? When the curtain was broken,
Right.
is now we have this personal relationship, and that is what was being modeled by Jesus with his Father. I mean, it's brilliant, and when you really connect with it, I don't know about you, but I get chills, about the power of that. The key is, am I in the car grabbing at that moment because I'm not doing it? Well, probably to some extent that's true for all of us, so I'm not going to beat myself up about that. Or am I in the car saying a prayer, singing a song of worship?
Right.
Is that a part of all that resources that I have accessed? And that's the brilliance of our relationship in our church is it's not just Sunday.
Yes.
It's really taking the time to look at our own discipleship relationship with the Lord. And I thank you, Pastor, and all of our pastors, because in a sense, we're all becoming pastors.
Yes.
And so that was a really powerful message. And again, this is just a preamble to check in with you, Gary. I don't want to ramble on. If there's a conversation to be had here, I want to have it because that's something I really get a lot out of. But that was powerful. It's like, this is a Christmas message. This is a Christmas message. Do we make room? Do we have room? And do we see how valuable that is? Because on the one hand, we're told, you don't have to earn this salvation.
Right.
That's true. It says that, right?
Yeah.
But if we are receiving and really understand what we're being given, we should see that in our lives. We want to be more like him.
Yes.
Fruits. We got to have fruits. Yeah.
So thank you, Gary.
I appreciate it. Thank you. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Pastor, how's the echo on your end? Everything good?
I've checked everything. Everything is off on my end.
I hear you clear.
My phone is off, and my wife's phone is off. Everyone's phone is off, but I guess now it's better. It seems like. But thank you for stepping in, Tom, while I was trying to figure that out. But I wanted to comment on what Gary said. The picture you gave, the analogy of a packed garage full of years and years of stuff, and you have to clean it up for something new to come in. And if you just stare at it, nothing is going to change. For anything to change, you got to work on it. And you got to take one box at a time, make room for the new. Because before we came to Christ, we were filled up with the world and everything we saw, watched, experienced, everything that was ungodly. And now becoming like Jesus is a process of emptying and filling the Christ likeness. We're getting the world out, the world way of thinking, and we're getting Christ likeness in us. And that is a process. And I like how you also said, sometimes you may pull your back doing this, and you may be out for a few days, but you don't stop. You get back at it. A box may hit you, or you may
Yeah,
stop.
I wanted to go like this.
Right? But you stay at it. And I think that imagery you gave is going to stick with a lot of us to kind of like, hey, keep working on it, keep pressing on it, because seeking Jesus, becoming like Jesus is a process. And the more you press in, because he modeled what it's like, and we just keep going. So I appreciate you giving us that picture, that image, because that will stick with a lot of us, because we got to make room for him. And like Tom said here, that Jesus modeled that for us. I mean, we think we're busy, we think we got a lot going on, but none of us come close to what Jesus had to deal with. But yet he modeled what it's like to make room for the Father, and we as
Hmm.
well.
Excellent point. Yeah, yeah. Excellent point. Yeah, that's what Tom brought back out too, real quick, is that even after those long days of ministering and teaching, he still went up the mountain. And Pastor, you brought this out too during the message. He had to go up the mountain just to get away from them, and not everyone can make that walk up the mountain. So again, it's all day effort, and the post all day effort still just to get away and rejuvenate with the prayer. So thank Tom for bringing that up too, because I didn't get that far in the message. I mean, with my message.
And
Yeah.
this is why we come together. I'm almost want to deflect that, but thank you for respecting that I brought it up. But this is why we come together, because we enrich each other. We go deeper together. We challenge each other. And even when we're not together, I don't know if you guys know this, but you're inspiring me, to what was it? Yeah, it was Jesse who talked about, no, last week, Pete
Pete, yeah.
suggested, he says, I can't, this is something pretty serious, but go ahead and spend some time looking in the mirror, see what you
Yeah, that
see.
was Pete, yeah.
Because sometimes a part of being busy or part of whatever, we tend to not want to look at that. We think we know what we see. I look in my mind's eye and gee, I'm younger and I'm more fit than but if I look in the mirror, the reality is there. But also if I look in my eyes, it's sobering, and it can be beneficial if you approach it in the right way.
Right. And going back, and maybe Tom, you may have a few things to add on your takeaways, but um, you did mention something about how this is not about church on Sunday morning. This is how we carry our lives outside the four walls of church.
Yeah.
And the matter of fact is, discipleship is not about the 2 hours on Sunday morning. Discipleship is actually everything outside the four walls of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Is being able to be in the workplace or being anywhere else and being able to image Christ, mirror Jesus, that people would see that. And that is what we're called to do. And for so long, traditionally in church setting, people have like seem to have one hat they put on, and
Yeah.
and the moment they walk off the church premises, it is a whole different lifestyle. It's a whole different thing. And Monday through Sunday, I mean Saturday is all different. I mean, you still have people that would Monday through Friday talk like the world, cuss like the world, go to the clubs, and then Sunday morning dress up and go to church. Those days are far gone, and we are not called to be like that. We're not called to be people that have no representation of Christ. I think for us, we realize that discipleship is continuous. It's not what happens Sunday. Sunday morning, you just come and maybe get encouraged and fired up, but now you have to go out and represent Christ to your family, represent Christ at your
Right.
workplace, represent Christ at the grocery store as you meet people, so
Yeah.
that people see that.
Yeah.
because that's what imaging Jesus is all about. Go ahead, Tom.
I just want to interject because one of the neat things, and I've been there a few times in live and in real world, IRL, right? Um, the first times when we met, I was a little bit like, whoa, we have members of our church family singing and playing music. And I don't know if people have appreciated that, but it's gotten better every month. It's a rich way to, as soon as I tune in, if I'm 5-10 minutes early, I'm already beginning to worship the Lord with my church family. And I know this is not your message about it, but to me, that's discipleship too. Everybody has a gift, a way to contribute to the church family. And I want to just appreciate those folks.
Thank you.
It's really an enriching experience.
To Myra, Antonio, and Julie.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning their names. Yeah.
That's good.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's get back to you, Tom.
Okay.
Do you have any more insights you want to share from that?
Well, it's interesting. I think that I plugged in as Gary did with Jesse there, and I think that's another example. John, you are just a man, and you have never represented to us that you're any more or any less. And you and Stan, you have shared the reality of what it is in your walk, and that takes a lot of courage. And I know there's probably a lot of other pastors, but it's to be acknowledged. And Jesse, and it's been a while, but Tom Akins, people who take the time to prepare, talk, or to pray and be in the moment and to contribute and to be there to support you. This is a model for all of us in being there with each other and for each other. It may not always be at church. It may be in a different venue, like you say. So that's important. To me also, there was statements about, well, it's one thing to share the gospel and to connect with our fellow brothers and sisters. It's kind of a safe place. And yet it's really necessary. It's really valuable. But also where is our courage to share? And our walk doesn't have to be something special. And it's kind of scary to share or do anything where people go, oh, they're a Christian. All of a sudden you feel like they're looking at you more closely. Any mistake you might make might represent something negative they have in their mind about Christianity. I grew up fighting that in a way, even though I consider myself Christian. But really, I guess I would just highlight, there were some scriptures that are definitely worth, noting and reading and studying over. Two in particular, Revelations 3:20 you ended on, but also Isaiah 42:8. And I'll take a moment to put it in the chat when I'm not speaking so people can have access to that if they don't have the time to go back. But what I wanted to do was actually start together with something, because I believe that most of us know these scriptures. Jesus taught us how to pray.
That's right.
And what's brilliant about it is there's a lot of different translations of the Bible. Can I invite the three of us to recite the Lord's Prayer with our microphone open? Gary's, yours is on mute right now. And not worry that my wording might be slightly different than yours. And I invite you who may be viewing us and participating through YouTube to go ahead and out loud, let's recite the Lord's Prayer. First of all, thank you, Lord, for that opportunity to connect with you, but also have the blessings of sanctifying your words. Pastor, good idea?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So our Father, this is
Father,
what taught us to pray. Our Father,
Father,
who art in heaven,
heaven,
hallowed be thy
hallowed be
name.
thy name.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
It is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts. We forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Deliver us from evil.
The kingdom
Kingdom,
and the power and the glory ever and ever.
Forever and ever.
Now, students of the Bible and different ancient languages that fed into it will talk about different translations, trespasses versus debtors, and the last bit that might have been added later than from the New King or the King James Version, and all that. I kind of love, to be honest, those kinds of investigations. But that's what they call angels dancing on the head of a pin or something, splitting hairs, because Lord, that prayer from Jesus is a way for me to instantly return to you. For some reason, you never forsake me. You give me every opportunity to return to you and to remember your preeminence. Your preeminence. That means you're bigger than me. You're bigger than name the world leader or my favorite actor or actress. I guess they're all one now. Actor means both. My favorite music, right? These are things that I love. My favorite food. Sometimes it's like worship, man. A Tuesday taco really gets me going at Taco Del Mar. We all kind of have different things that catch us up, and maybe we catch ourselves. Manna from heaven is God is there to provide for us. Literally food. He fed his people as they moved through the desert through 40 years, and the instruction was only eat what is enough. You know, it spoils. Don't worry about more. It's also spiritual food. You know, breaking bread, as we learned from Viola's dear departed husband, right? We learned beyond that, but he drove that home when I got to know him and through our church. I'm grateful for that. Breaking bread is opening up that word, and when we can do it with two or more, it's even more powerful. It's like the power of that. What is it? Power of, I'm supposed to be a guy who knows math. You know, when it's multiplied by itself so many times or whatever.
Financial.
Thank you. And I miss being together in fellowship, but that power is there.
Mm-hmm.
So for some reason, Lord, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I don't want to represent that I'm a perfect Christian, but what I am is perfectly saved and been given the opportunity to return to him. And his words will help me do that. And that's the beauty of reading the Bible. I mean, I have it memorized, but when I dip in, and it's surprising, as I've studied, as you've mentioned, Gary, through different ways of reading or listening or tuning into Bible studies, you know, Jesus is all over the Old Testament. It's powerful. I'm going back through First and Second Samuel, and that would he has his lessons for us to learn from him being present. We were just completing Daniel in a Thursday morning Bible study, you know, and that I thought I knew Daniel. Oh, wide open, wide open. There's a lot there. You can always get more food by dipping in. Ladies and gentlemen, the message that I came with, bottom line, is God is big. God is too big. So let's not try and, oh, don't worry, I got it. Let's accept him and ask him in. And pretty much, I don't know if this is fair to say, but he is so big that I can say about myself, he deserves to be treated better than I treat him. But all he asks is that I invite him in. Isaiah 42:8. I am the Lord, that is my name and my glory. I will not give to another, nor my praise to carved images.
Right.
The Lord is the Lord, and there's a lot of substitutes out there that we can rationalize or emotionally or in different ways take to heart. And again, especially in the Old Testament, but again and again, not to take take those false gods, but to keep returning to him in the ways that are proven and are known. And then the final scripture that really highlighted and kind of brought it home, Pastor, as you do so well on such a regular basis. Thank you, Lord. Revelations 3:20. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in to him and dine with him, and he with me. This is the invitation.
Right.
This is the invitation. Invite him in. Make room for him in any way you can. In the message of December 19th, 2021, or the message today so far that we've heard from Gary and reflecting with John, yes, there's a lot of distractions. Start wherever you are. Make that private room.
Right.
Close the door, get in the car, you know, and wherever you can find time to be with him. Because your heart, as you connect with him, if you can voice it in the place that you can find, you know, he's there for you. And I'm so grateful. And to be honest with you, because I feel like Jesus has been with me ever since I was kind of conscious of that stuff. I don't know if it was age 14 or I don't know what, somewhere down there. I know that he connected with me. But my life has not been a straight line. And so the point of this odd sentence is I'm so grateful to rediscover the power of the church family. The Lord led me to Winning Christian Center, surrounded me with all you rough and irregular people. We're human beings. It's not all neat. It can be messy. But each of you have been so valuable in my life, and I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you, John, because there's nothing like a friendship, and I have quite a few based in Christ, and I appreciate that. So
That's good.
Great, brother. We're becoming a team here. What do you want to add? Anything more to what I said?
No, not at all. I'm always inspired at the. It seems like you're so grounded. You know what I mean? You're so grounded in not just your relationship with Christ, but the biblical scriptures that you refer to, and it always seems to come together. And so I'm always grateful to hear you speak, and I always seem to get something from you every time.
Thank you.
And so it's almost as if you're right. We're a team. That a lot of what you said comes back around to what I said. A lot of what you say goes back and draws out specific scriptures as to how the pastor presented it, right? Oh, yeah. So nonetheless, even if I was watching this whole series at home from a different point of view, I would be like, wow, this is a really strong message today. Does that make sense? We're kind of all interwoven here. And so again, it's always inspirational and comforting, man, when you get up there and make your presentations. I get a lot out of it. Thank you.
Well, Gary, you spoke about it because we could check in with each other 2 weeks or whatever. It might be a flip situation, because what you shared with us is the challenges that were coming up when you're in that garage and cleaning up and so forth. There are challenges, folks. We're not going to lie to you and pretend it's wave a magic wand or something. It's not the business. It's the business about being real. Mm-hmm. And also, thank you very much. Obviously, scriptures are from scripture, but I don't just get them because of my own arduous. I get them because I listen to John and the talking and receive it, but also scriptures all seem to connect. Mm-hmm. I mentioned several resources. I don't try to inundate myself, as the pastor gave me some guidance some years ago. Try to pick just 1, 2, or maybe 3 that you regularly rely on. That way I can follow through on a teaching series or on a book.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and right now, everybody, in case people are wondering, well, where? But give me something practical. J. Vernon McGee, now rest his soul is with the Lord, used to have a radio Bible ministry called Through the Bible, the Bible Bus, and now there's young people kind of curating and keeping him alive, and he is all over the world. We talk about the troubles or whatever people, the situation. No, it's a war. It's a monstrous war there in the Eastern Europe. Well,
glad you said that.
Pardon me?
I'm glad you said that. It's a war. It's not a situation. Thank you.
Yeah, we've had different ways of people putting it. Around the world, there are Christians whose Christian life, they're in danger every day, every time they meet, every time they open a book, and the truth comes at a price. And here in the United States of America, we've had our own challenges. We're far from perfect, but we've really been blessed to have freedom of religion, freedom of association, and other freedoms. Sometimes they're tested, and we have to stand up for them as citizens and so forth. This is not a political speech. This is about how challenging it is. Well, Through the Bible is available in a variety of languages. And so many of the ministries, like I get a daily diary from YWAM, Youth with a Mission, Christian organization. One of my Bible study brothers, his wife used to be a writer there, no longer. But anyhow, every month they have a story. Every week they have a prayer for a nation and what have you, because they're about everybody finding their way to use their talents to carry that message out and to remember that in our own living. So why do we open the garage? It's not just for us. It's not just for others. It really is. But all of that is to serve him.
Absolutely.
He wants us to have a whole life. He wants us to reach out to others. That's how he reaches others, although we're not the ones responsible for it. I can't have that place that Jesus has provided for me without the mercy of God making that available to me.
That's good.
But I can certainly follow in suit there.
Right.
Thank you for that. But I want to remind you, other resources. Alistair Begg back in Ohio. He's a Scot whose accent has slowly but surely gotten more acceptable to people who try to listen to what is supposedly the English language. You know, you can hear him pretty well now and understand him at the same time. Alistair Begg, his ministry is called Truth for Life. You can get that in an app. He'll send out a USB drive, like the most recent talk, and you can go ahead or go behind if you use his app versus like a podcast. And then we're actually going to be using a book because when we finish Daniel on our Thursday morning, and I invite anybody who wants to get with us for it's really less than an hour, but roughly an hour beginning at shortly after 6, we're going to start into Revelations.
And that is Thursday at 6 in the morning, 6 a.m.
6 a.m. on Thursday mornings, yeah, which does not compete with other programming. I know there's a real strong Bible study group in the evening on Thursdays, but we're going to start into Revelations. We're looking for tremendous insight and blessings. And again, let me know if you'd like me to invite you in. It's pretty easy access. And there's so many resources, Pastor.
I mean,
Gary's about this.
we've never lived in a better time where everybody can grow if you want to grow. I feel like this theme of making time for God is really a continuous theme. Like we've talked so much about that. Like all last year, it's something that we keep coming back to. And I am very thankful because a lot of people, even when we come on, many people have built rhythms now where they, even Gary said, every morning he starts off day with God, you know, and many people in our church now really have these rhythms where they have moments with God, alone with God. That blesses me tremendously, but it doesn't mean we stop talking about it.
Right.
We keep talking about it because we keep watering that thing, because it is in those private moments that really transformation happens. Like the catalyst for change begins in the private moments. You know, it is with you and God, your personal discipline every single day. Now, here's the thing. When you wake up tomorrow morning and spend 15, 30 minutes praying, you may not feel any different. You may be like, oh, I just did that. You don't feel anything. Okay, but do that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Even though you feel nothing, something is happening because our God works in the invisible. You know,
Yes.
when you don't, he's intangible. So it is an act of faith that even though I feel nothing, but I know God heard me, I spent time with him, and therefore I believe that whatever happens that day is because I prayed, because I was in the presence of God. That's what Gary said earlier. It's not what you pray, it's how you pray. And Tom, you also mentioned that God is so big, he won't share his glory. And I think that's so important to keep emphasizing that because, you know, we live in a busy time. Our demand is so high, and many times we get distracted and we think we can just get God to tag along. You know, like God, I don't have time, but just come with me in the car, come with me in the shower, you know, come with me here and there. You're just gonna tag along. I'm gonna carry you in my backpack. It doesn't work that way. You know, you gotta settle down and really, because he's so big, he can't be shared. You know, that's why Jesus isolated himself, because he knew the glory of God. He knew the greatness of his Father. He's like, my God is so huge that he's not worth being shared. You know, remember, I think I remember talking about the Chinese president who came.
Yes, he did.
You know, even if it was president of the United States, they are going to close the freeway out because he's so big for you and I, just ordinary people, share the freeway with him. He's got to have the freeway to himself and his entourage, you know, and that's how people operate. But you imagine if we understood the glory of God, the greatness of God, and knowing that the veil was torn, that we have access into his presence. And then we're like, I'm too busy to do that. Oh God, I'm just going to have you tag along because I am too busy to settle down and have time with you alone. Now, I know many of you do this. I know many of you have rhythms where you're in the Word, you're spending time with God, you have that. But I want to just keep watering, put more water into that, because we need to establish that. And you see many lives change, and many lives, people are doing great. just because of that. There's a lot of growth and supernatural growth because of that. So you guys, thank you for just bringing that together. And church family, the reason we talk about this over and over again, it's not because you're not doing it or because you don't have it, but we can just keep encouraging us, keep repeating it, keep talking about it, because times are going to come when you're pulled in so many directions, and we hope you can fight for your time with God so you can make room for him and not just feel like you can just fit him in. He's so big to be fit into anything. He's so marvelous, so glorious. He's so huge, you can't fit him in. You got to make room for him because you can't just fit him into your schedule, you know? So I hope that, go ahead, Tom. I see.
I just want to add in as I listen to you in 1 Samuel, roughly chapters 4-7, his people actually lost the ark and then they got it back. You know, through the process. Without going into all the other details, one of the things is they followed the Philistines as far as Egrok, or there's a word I thought I knew, but when I read it, you know, in the Bible, it's like, oh, that's spelled Egrok or something, and they put it there and they said, this is as far as the Lord has taken us so far. And the message, I may not be articulating very well, but Pastor, maybe you can help embellish if necessary. But this is an acknowledgement that God took us there so far. And it's an acknowledgement without specifically saying about past missteps in not being obedient to God. And it's a reminder that every day it behooves us to connect with him, to receive his blessings.
That's right.
And so I wanted to just mention that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, thank you. That was really good. Appreciate you guys coming on and reminding us, you know, don't forget that there's some comment that Gary said earlier that the less room you make for God, the more struggles and challenges. I mean, on the other side. But it also is like it's like almost what's the word? I forget the word I want to say.
Momentum?
Huh?
Momentum?
No, it's
on the other side. That is
when you have it.
But I'm sorry, I didn't get your word. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So the less time you make for him, the more you struggle. You know, because you make less time for him. But also, the more time you make for God, the more resistance you attract at the same time. Yeah. It's understanding the kind of struggle you're dealing with. There's the struggle that is self-inflicted because God is absent in the picture. And then there's spiritual struggle, spiritual warfare that you are taught because God is in the picture, you know? Yep. So I think understanding that is a level of maturity where you know, okay, this is not the devil, this is me, because God is not in the picture. Right. Oh, this is spiritual and I'm excited about it because God is in the picture. Let's wage war now, you know? So
Pastor, could you talk more about that? Because what I heard you say is, yes, when I am of my own accord creating obstacles and my life gets tougher, when I get with God and start contributing energy and time and allowing him in, yeah, there's going to be resistance, but there's also a momentum where God is with you. It's almost like he'll give you what you can handle. So yeah, here
always. Yeah, always.
About how that may work, or maybe, you know, if you have.
Yeah.
You definitely have resistance from the
scripture always says, right? He'll not put more on you than you can handle.
Exactly.
But believe me, you're going to have to handle some stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And Gary, the way you talked about it was like you didn't sit there and worry about whether it was me who created it or what. No, you just said this is of God. It's like Paul. You know, anything that was suffering, he just said this is all for God. He just dedicated himself to living for God. And that's really all we need to do.
Yeah. And in most part, if I'm living for Christ and I'm having these struggles, it's not like I'm creating it. Does that make sense? And I'm so busy focusing on what he wants or where I'm supposed to be going.
Yeah.
There got to be distractions because of that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If I wasn't associated with God, I would see these problems as, I kind of expected that. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to stay focused no matter how many distractions come. Because they come. They come.
That's good. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We are going to wrap it up here. Thank you for the word. Church family, thank you for being with us today. I hope this has been a blessing to you. We're going to continue doing this. I want to shout out to Tom and Brother Gary. Thank you for being a blessing to all of us that sharing your story.